Today we're going to talk about a case study. This is something a little bit new, but we're going to talk about how the banks will drive you crazy in probate. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
All right. So, I mean, a lot of people have heard or kind of know the I guess common sense that probate can be stressful and frustrating, but not a lot of folks know exactly what that means. So we're here to give you sort of a case study or an example so that you can get a better sense of why it can be so stressful and frustrating. So this one is a recent example that we've been working on.
Yes.
And it's been annoying for us, but for a non-professional executor, it'll probably really just kind of drive you mad. Yeah.
Absolutely. Or even have given up at this point.
Sure. So just to give some background, I am a professional executor, and that means that I do this regularly, consistently. I have just met hundreds of these cases under my belt, I guess. So I have that experience. So it's kind of hard to phase us. We've kind of seen it all. We have a little bit of that jadedness built up. How that counts.
That's a good way to put it.
But so what that means is, I'm not a family member. I'm not related to anybody in an estate, but I'm an attorney and a professional executor. So in many cases, the family will hire me to run the process. And in this case, I was not even named in the will. A lot of people don't know this, but you are able to choose a professional executor, even if the person didn't name a professional executor in the will, as long as there are certain circumstances and conditions, like the heirs all agree unanimously, for instance. But in this case, the family didn't want any stress and they didn't want a hassle because they had gone through it with I think the mother-in-law's estate. So they knew what they were getting into and they knew what they wanted to avoid. So they hired me, right? So
Yeah, to take the stress off. And what a nice family.
Oh, very nice.
I love them.
The
Talking
best.
to them was just wonderful. So it feels good to take the stress off of them.
Oh, absolutely. And so with that, I have been appointed. I am the court-appointed administrator in this case for this estate. And what that means is Janice and I and our team, we went to court, we filed all the proper paperwork, and the judge or the courthouse, reviewed and approved. And I have a certificate called Letters Testamentary. I don't know why they call it letters. I'm sure there's a historical reason. And that is my proof when I go to banks or insurance companies or anywhere else that here's a document that proves that I have legal and court-reviewed authority to do things for the estate, right? So, and there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. I'm pointing out very specifically that I have been vetted, reviewed, and appointed by the court. And I think you know where I'm going with this, Janice.
I do. Yes. Oh, I do.
So the next step was that in this particular estate, there's a lot of other issues going on, as is normal with estates. But one of the things we're dealing with is we discovered that there's a safe deposit box. And for any of the youngsters out there, Janice, can you just quickly go over what a safe deposit box is? Because a lot of people don't know,
They don't. It's almost like a rotary phone or a phone on the wall, a landline per se. Anyway, so you have a safe deposit box. It's inside of a bank. It's actually it's a box. It's locked. It's inside of a vault. And it's where people used to keep most of their, important documents or belongings that have any value, anything that you want to keep safe, not in your house. And I believe, are most of them insured? I'm not sure how that works, but I know that to get in, you have to show your ID. You have a key. The bank has a key. You put them in at the same time. You open it, and you get to your items. Again, it's a safe deposit box, safe way to hold your valuables.
And just to give you a sense of the stakes, I know if you've watched movies like American Gangster or Casino, you might think there's like a treasure trove of jewels or cash in there, and I guess that happens sometimes. But in our experience, in I guess real life, it's mostly like birth certificates and family documents or deeds, things that you might think you might need the original for, but you actually really don't, because you can always get new originals from the courthouse. Right. But yeah, it's usually stuff like that. Maybe sometimes a few family jewels, but people like to wear their jewels, so they don't leave them in the bank, So it's very rare that you have anything of significant value. But nonetheless, it is our duty as professional executors to investigate and get access to this safe deposit box. And therein enters Citibank in our example.
Oh, yes. One of our favorite banks.
So Janice can attest that Citibank, where our, in our case, where the safe deposit box is held, has been nice. They've been professional.
Nice.
They haven't been rude or anything.
No, not at all.
But what's the big but here, Janice?
but so as you explained before, you have these letters, these full letters from the court that say you can go in as a fiduciary and you
Hmm.
can take care of what needs to be taken care of for an estate.
Right.
So we're having a little bit of a problem per se with Citibank, that they want something different than is the normal to get into the safety deposit box. Where typically, correct me if I'm wrong, you walk in, you have the letters, the death
Hmm.
certificate, 18 forms of ID, and you can get in. That was sarcasm. I think you need two. And
Yeah.
but in this particular one, they're asking for a note or a specific verbiage that states you can get into the safety deposit box.
Well, let me rewind that a little bit. At first,
Yeah.
if I recall correctly, they said we needed a specific court order called a safe deposit box, or an order to open the safe deposit box, and that
Correct.
we knew right off the bat was wrong, because that's a separate proceeding. And if you go onto the New York court's website, you can see there's a whole sort of FAQ page about how to do that. And what that type of order is for, that's for when somebody has just passed away. Nobody has been appointed yet, and you want access to the safe deposit box to see if the will is in there. It's very specific to that scenario. But if somebody
Correct.
has
And
already,
oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying, if I'm not mistaken, that safety deposit box only gets you in to just get the will. Like, you can't touch anything else in there, if I'm not mistaken. That's just to
very
have
good,
you.
very
Yeah,
good point. It's just to
look
see
at
if the
what
will is
that
in there,
will.
and then
Yes.
the will is transported by the bank directly to the court. Very good. That's true.
Correct. Yes.
So obviously that doesn't fit the circumstances we're talking about here, because I'm already appointed. I am the fully appointed administrator, and we want the contents of the
Right.
box. So as you said, then they sort of backpedaled a little bit and said, "Oh no, we don't need that. We don't need the full safe deposit order, but we do need special wording in your letters testamentary." And Janice, can you go over why that's not correct either?
Right. So, there are banking laws in New York that have this particularly written out on how one can access a safety deposit box after someone has passed. So, interestingly enough, all you need, in theory, are these letters from the court that give you the full reign to do what you need to do as an administrator to open it up.
So the reason I'm bringing this up for anyone who's considering doing probate on their own is because, let me just paint a mental picture for you of what would happen if you were doing this on your own without a professional executor. So just imagine just being bounced around back and forth. Nobody likes that, right? It's super frustrating. So you go to the bank, you think you're done. You did all this stuff with your lawyer, your expensive lawyer, at the courthouse to get your full letters of administration. And so you go to the bank on your day off, by the way. You had to take time off of work, of course, right?
Yes.
You had to
They're open
coordinate
9 to 5. Right?
Yeah, right. You had to coordinate with your coworker to cover for you, or whatever the case may be. And you go to the bank saying, "Okay, cool, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this whole thing." And they say, "No, actually, you need to go back to court." And they tell you very authoritatively what you need to do. And you think, "Okay, well, this is my first time doing this. I understand that I made a mistake." So now you take another day off from work.
Right.
Right, to go back to the court and do what the bank told you to do. In this case, to get the safe deposit box order. And then the court clerk tells you, that's wrong.
What are you talking about?
You have everything you need. Don't bother us, right? Or maybe not that brusque, but sometimes.
So, depending on the court.
So then you go back to the bank on yet another day off, or at best bouncing back and forth in a frantic one day of the one day you were able to get some paid time off, and the bank says, "No, we're right. Court's wrong. You got to go back there." So now you're ready to cuss somebody out, right? Pretty much.
Oh, absolutely. My hair is now falling out at this point, and you would be very frustrated. Heck, I'm frustrated, and we do this for a living.
And I hate to beat a dead horse, but I do want to give one more sort of leg to this example. So you go back to the courthouse and you say, "Look, the bank is insisting that I have this language here." And here's what the court will ultimately always say: "I'm not your lawyer. You have to go hire a lawyer." They always say that. Is that true, Janice?
Absolutely. It doesn't matter where you are, what courthouse in this entire country. They cannot give legal advice,
Yep.
even asking questions like that. They will always point you to, please refer to a lawyer.
Yep. So, okay. So now I've kind of hopefully let you know what it's like to get kind of jerked around by the system. It's not really anyone's fault. I mean, it's kind of somebody's fault, but anyway.
In this particular case in point, but, we won't point out any fingers.
Very, very gracious of you. So look, the reason why it's easier for us professional executors is because we know who's wrong and who's right. We know what should be happening, even if they're not doing their, Even if they're not following the law, we know what the law is, right? So we don't stress out about it. We just go, okay, you're wrong. And that, we're very polite. I mean, Janice is a sweetheart, right? So
we try to be polite, although what I'd like to say and what I actually put on paper are entirely different.
So because we know we're right, we don't waste any time getting bounced around between the courthouse and the bank. We simply say to the banker, thank you for all your assistance so far. I'm afraid we think, we might have a difference in how we think it should be done. Would you please would you please instruct me on how to escalate it to your legal department, right? Or something along those lines, or essentially the fancy way of saying, may I speak to a supervisor?
Right. Can I talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about? Yes.
So, just the fact that we know what is supposed to happen, Janice and I, we get annoyed, of course, but we don't get stressed out about it the way a layman might get just totally bounced around, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it is an annoyance for us at this point because we've unfortunately dealt with a lot of annoyances in the banking industry and other industries. But we know what to do. We knew the next steps. You know what? We write a letter. We put our legal information in there, the laws. We cite that. We knew that.
So the reason, I hope this story has been useful to you, this example. But I don't want you to walk away from this thinking, okay, cool. Now I know in this particular example, the safe deposit box example. So if I'm listening to this YouTube video, now I know what to do, and or this podcast, I'll just go to the bank and tell them I want to speak to a supervisor. That's not going to work, and let me explain why. Because you're not. I hate to say it to it, but it's because you're not a lawyer, and this. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or anything, but the simple fact is, people listen to me, but not Janice, for example. Simply because I have a lawyer degree, even if we say the exact same thing. Can you attest to that, Janice?
Oh, absolutely. And I can tell you from personally, I wouldn't do this on my own. Yeah. Even having the information that I do, I would never do this on my own.
But my point is, how many times, Janice, have you told a banker or a counterpart the exact same thing that I tell them, but they don't listen to you because you're not, quote unquote, the lawyer, right?
My favorite phrase is, well, Anthony said, comma, quotation, and then all of a sudden it gets somewhere. And then I want to say, I just said that 5 minutes ago, but I don't. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So if you, as the, grieving son or nephew or spouse, go into the bank, I guess maybe even if you are a lawyer, just the bottom line is they're probably not going to listen. You need to keep nudging with authority and just kind of know, not throwing your weight around, but if you know what you're talking about, it just comes across. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Have you ever gotten frustrated when you're on the phone with them, just in, I say normal life, regular life, and you get frustrated and you need to say something and instead you say something that may not help the situation. Sure. But like you said, if you're an attorney and you know what to say and you have that authority, it goes a lot further than getting frustrated and saying things you might regret later.
Right. All right. So, that's all I have. I just, I'm hoping this is helpful to somebody out there who, before they start the process on their own, because what's frustrating for us, Janice, is when somebody comes to us saying, I've been trying for 2 years to settle an estate. I'm now ready for a professional to help. I'm like, dude, we could have saved you 2 years of headache.
Correct. Ouch. The probate process takes a long time, but when you get into it on our end after 2 years, yeah.
So look, save yourself a lot of headache. Get a professional executor to run this for you from the get-go, so that you can, live your life, move on with your life, get through your grieving process if it was somebody close to you, and just have confidence that it's being done professionally and that you'll get your rightful and correct, calculated inheritance at the end without any of the stress, headache, or getting down in the mud of the probate process. Yeah.
Right. Well, when we said in the beginning, this is a wonderful family and they're so nice and they're so kind, but maybe sheltered is a good word. We've sheltered them from all this. They don't know we're going back and forth with Citibank. This is our 12th conversation and email and letter, but they don't know that. They'll just all of a sudden know, hey, guess what? We got in, everything's fine. And that's just so much less stressful for them.
And you know what? They're such great clients. I'm so glad we're able to do this for them. You're absolutely right when you say that.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know that. Yeah, absolutely. It feels good because they're just so happy and you just give them the information and it's over. They didn't know all of this to begin with.
Okay, so that's it today. I hope you. This is our first time doing a case study like this. So if you like this, please let us know in the comments, and we'll do more. Otherwise, thank you, Janice. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Take care.
Bye bye.